Hello, everyone. How is it going? We have just wrapped up a wonderful draft day one. It took about 4.5 hours to get
Oh my
through
God, it was
32
absolutely
picks.
brutal. The
Uh,
last 4 picks felt like about 45 minutes.
it was insane. I wasn't even watching the actual thing. I was just let me get our names up here.
There you go.
I wasn't actually watching the actual thing, like the broadcast. I was just like following it on NHL.com, just like the picks coming in. And I swear, I'd see one, be like, okay, Ravensburg was taken. Let me go do something, write something, and come back and was like, oh, a pick still hasn't been made yet.
No, yeah,
Anyways,
it's brutal.
my name is Thomas. I'm joined by Jacob here. We are gonna go over some of the prospects left after the first round. So 32 plus prospects have been taken. Obviously, famously, the Flyers took Porter Martone and Jack Nesbitt. A pretty exciting first round, but that's not what we're here to talk about. There's two videos briefly touching on our opinion of the picks on the YouTube channel. So if you're save those for later, I don't think I
Take a
linked them
peek.
anywhere, but
Take a peek.
yeah,
They're
take a
there.
peek. And they're like less than 5 minutes long, each of them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's read broadsheet.hockey.com later for full analysis of the thing. But we're here to talk about prospects that we really like that are left. That obviously with the Flyers owning the 36th, 40th, and the 48th pick still, that there's a lot of opportunity to get prospects that we particularly like, prospects that we've watched all season of and have grown to appreciate and think that could be first round talents. Like a lot of these players, I don't know about you, Jacob. Like some of these players that I've have down on the list. So I have 5 forwards and 5 defensemen specifically that are left that I really like and could like in the second round. But I thought these were first round talents for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got probably, I'd say maybe 5, 6 guys who I thought were definitely first round talents. I think Andrianov going. That was
Yeah,
a little strange. That was kind of a
things up.
shakeup. That made it a little bit less predictable, right? You know, you see a guy like Bristevitz go at the end of the first round, who that's honestly a round where I thought he would go, but at the same time, you think he's probably more of a second round guy than a first round guy. So it is interesting to see him go there. Lee, Nestrasil, like all these guys are more on the fringe, more second round probably if you were to be ranking off of NHL potential, you know, just straight up player grades. So yeah, there's a lot of real moving parts here that have created a perfect storm for a team that happens to have 3 second round picks.
And very early too. So they could get
Yes.
like all these players that we named basically. What is one forward that you kind of want to key on in first? I don't know if we have time to go through all of them. We don't want to take up too many people's time, but what's like one forward that's like definitely like this is someone that at 36 I feel comfortable and really want the Flyers to target.
Just off of NHL projectability, the first guy I'll go with is Malcolm Spence.
Mm-hmm.
I think Malcolm Spence is a guy that every team needs a variation of, even if it's not him specifically. I think we've all liked Malcolm Spence's compete level, his drive, his 200-foot game. He's very impressive from that standpoint. But again, there's just been the interest in like you probably want a bit more offensive upside if you're taking him in the first round. But if you're taking Malcolm Spence in the second round, you basically take him whenever you can. I think he's so advanced in other aspects of the game that don't necessarily pertain to scoring outright and being a like an NHL level play driver. But everything else is pretty much there. If you can teach him a bit more offensive, if he can gain even a bit more offensive confidence going to Michigan next year, like if he puts up close to a point per game at Michigan while playing, you know, the same sort of 200-foot game, the same sort of dogged determination that everyone who has watched him has grown to love him for, he's a slam dunk in a second round for any team. I mean, regardless of positional need.
Yeah, like I see Spence as someone that in the earlier second round, say like 18, 19, I feel like it'd be a very safe like option for a team that's like, I think on our mock draft, we put him with Chicago at 25, I believe. So it was in our mind, it was Chicago needing someone at like just a middle six wing, set it and forget it. Like this is going to be your position, your spot for the next decade. And I like that in Spence a lot. I think there are tools in Spence's game that are much more, like you said, like projectability, but there's also a little bit of an upside too compared to those more projectable forwards. Like you could do a Jack Murtagh or a Cole McKinney, but I think among those players that project to be at the same level as Spence, I think with Spence, there's a much more potential for more. And especially playing college like next year right away and getting that step over those guys playing in the O already. I think it's Spence is definitely a really, really intriguing option, especially for a team as like a day two, just like a second round guy that could play 400 games in the NHL, maybe. Like that's perfectly reasonable.
Well, listen, you look at guys who are normally taken in the second round. If you can get a guy like Spence, who is an NHL player, I mean, I struggle to see the scenario outside of injury where he doesn't at least get to the NHL. I've seen the Flyers take guys like, and this isn't necessarily his fault, but it's the guy that comes to mind every time when I think about second rounders, like a Pascal Laberge, right? Remember him back in the day?
Yeah,
so unfortunate. I thought he was a really good hockey player.
Yeah.
It's just the concussions really killed his career,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate, right? But if you can take a guy who sans injuries, right, who's playing in your roster for as long as basically you want to keep him, as long as the money, makes sense, and then maybe he does turn into something. I think a lot of these guys who are going to college next year, especially from the O, especially from the CHL, if they go out there and dominate, it's a totally different ballgame for them, right? If Cullen, it's the same with a lot of the guys who are playing the NCAA now. If Cullen Potter or James Higgins goes out and puts up over a point per game in the NCAA, the outlooks on them as prospects completely change overnight, right? Not overnight, over a season.
Yeah,
but you get the point, right?
Yeah, like even Cullen Potter, if he was playing juniors and if Cullen Potter's in the OHL, he'd put up over 100 points, like easily last year. So like his perception probably would have changed dramatically anyways. But like I think Spence is a very safe option. I think moving on to a next player that I think the Flyers definitely like, because he excelled a lot at that Gold Star camp in Miami where Briere was apparently last week, was Alexander Zharovsky. He's one player that just immediately comes to mind when you talk about taking a risk on skill. Not the smoothest skater, but his hands are one of the best in the class. A very, very kind of net front, not like net front, but like net driving player in the MHL. And I know you have opinions about the MHL, but there's something to say about how quickly he has risen up from being like he wasn't even on Central Scouting's like European list to start the season or something, or it was like December list, but then in March he was suddenly like the 9th best player. Like it was a rapid ascension.
Yeah, that's the thing. The MHL, right? I've said it a billion times. I'm not a big fan of the MHL and the USHL this year, but it's when I say that, it's not like there's no good players in those leagues. It's just hard to discern who's actually good and who isn't, because the competition is just so like.
Sorry to interrupt. You just keep on talking. I just got to deal with something really quick. That's
okay.
You just keep on going through.
I'm gonna roll this. So the MHL USHL, it's a very strange league to sort of evaluate. You don't know what the competition is going to be. It's much lower than all of the CHL, the QMJHL being probably the closest. But the OHL and WHL are better than those two leagues, like flat out. And the NCAA is even another step up. So it's Zharovsky, to me, he does have, he had that stretch at the end of his season where 29 games, 46 points, that really put him on the map. That made him a guy who can become, maybe an NHL caliber goal scorer rather than just a guy who he'll go to the KHL, put up some numbers on maybe a bad team here and there. And then maybe if he shows that he can play amongst men and score amongst men, he can get a KHL contract and then eventually come over to the NHL, like a Kirill Kaprizov or somebody of that nature. But as of right now, it's hard for me to really say that this guy is going to be somebody who makes an impact amongst men, because it's such a streaky league inherently. And it's tough to evaluate, especially when you don't it's hard to get clips from there even at all, especially for people like us, right? It's not easy to find all the MHL games. I worked for a hockey data company and we didn't even have all the goddamn MHL games. So, it's tough. What I did see, I liked. He's got a ton of skill. I mean, he's the classic Russian prospect. I was going to tell you before you left.
Yeah.
He's got the Andrei Kuzmenko player comparison on EP. Our boy, the best LA King to ever put on the jersey. So, like that's the type of guy though in the second round you take a swing on.
Oh yeah, easily. Like it's the thing about balance. Like there's players that I have on this list of like available that I think are safe bets, but then also you could swing more in the second round, especially with multiple picks around the same range that could lead you to success. And they both type of players and both level of risk players and draft picks might not even play in the NHL. So I think Zharovsky's a real solid bet, and we know the Flyers kind of have been eyeing him up. Another player I have on my list, a forward, is Luca Romano. He's a center. Yeah, we need more Italians on the team.
Yes,
he's a center to Kitchener. I think he's just a super smart player. Like honestly, just like there's a baseline to play whenever I watch him. That's like he's just always super like being active and being not super like, I guess he's being more proactive than reactive, I think, in a lot of the games that I remembered watching him. Like he's just, to me, it's those type of players that he's not the biggest player. He's not the best skater. He's not doing all this, but he's just like an overall, like he reminds me a lot of Luke Misa, kind of like in his draft year. But just like super solid, productive, will probably put up a really good OHL career and then move on. And he like could be playing, he could take also the same Luke Misa route of like playing the OHL next year, then draft plus 2 year, go to college, and then see where you go from there before the AHL. I think there's just like a good solid development path for Romano specifically.
Yeah, when I watch Romano, he's on my list as well. Like he's on my short list of guys, not necessarily who I think are first round talents that fell out, but he was always on my second round radar, maybe with the second pick that the Flyers have, because I just love his like shiftiness. I love his playmaking vision. He's got that sort of, I really love those tight turns into the middle, like the no holds bars, kind of cut to the slot, try to get a shot off, try to fan passes out wide. I think he does that really well at the OHL level, and he's still got a bit of, for lack of a better word, he's got a bit of dog in him. He's in the corners. He's in, like he's not on the outside. He's not playing on the exterior. He's trying to get into the corners. He's trying to get the puck. He back checks. He tries his heart out. He's not huge, but again, I think he's another one of these guys who I could see him going back to Kitchener if he wanted to and putting up 105 points, right? Or putting up 90 points, right? I can see that happening. Very, very, especially if he gets guys around him who are skilled to play with, right? To dish the puck off to. He's a very smart playmaker. He's got hockey sense, I think, that is really projectable to the NHL. And I really love him as a prospect, especially as a guy. If you can even get him later on in the draft, I think it's a no-brainer. I think he's definitely a guy who can have some future at the pro level. And obviously, Luca Romano is the best. It's the fucking best, man.
Especially when you're talking about like the Flyers are targeting centers and trying to get that position. I think like among the centers available, he's probably like could be available later and has the higher ceiling among those players. Like sure, like maybe like you could argue maybe like a Milton Gastrin or something, like has a higher
Well,
ceiling,
more.
or more like there's other players that you could see have more projectability or again higher ceiling. But Romano is, I think, like it's someone that's not being talked about, I think, enough in that range. Like he's not a very like attractive, like shiny name, like a lot of the Swedish guys in this range. Like you're not thinking about him like that, but I think he should be right up there. Like he has all the tools that you kind of want. Like he's decently fast. Again, I said like not a great skater, but he's straight ahead speed's pretty good.
I think he's quick enough
He's
for
quick and like
how
yeah,
long his stride is currently.
yeah. And then he can shoot the puck well, has a decent like aggressiveness to his game that isn't, he's not like afraid or
No.
timid or anything with the pucks or off the puck too. So like I really see like a path for him. And like if he slips even past the second round, that's I would be surprised, especially with the need of the center position. But yeah, he's definitely someone that I could see Flyers taking at 40, 48, and that being a great pick to keep an eye on for the next few years.
Yeah. So just to continue on now, I'm going to bring up a name that I like. It's going to be a defenseman now. We'll switch it up here.
Okay. So I was going to do more forward, but
okay, I'll do forwards.
I have Vansaghi. Do you have Vansaghi?
I have Vansaghi as well.
Okay.
I think we both have Vansaghi. We've talked about Vansaghi in the past. Another guy who played at the NCAA. And I think if he gets another year next year, there's a very good chance he puts up one of those eye-popping point totals. Not eye-popping, but a very good season.
You're on a very good team. Jesus. Like, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Might be Gavin McKenna's winger.
Like at that point, it almost hinders him, you know?
Yeah.
Because at that point, it's like, okay,
oh,
we have a fucking wizard as my center. Like, put me out there, I'll probably tuck a couple backdoor. But the thing with Vansaghi I like is just another big guy, another guy with size, plays heavy, you know. He's not a slug by any stretch of the imagination, right? He's got a heavy shot that can develop over time. And I really like just the raw profile that he brings, especially as a bigger guy, a bigger winger who's already went to play in the NCAA and you know, acquitted himself pretty well thus far.
Yeah. And like, especially like his skating is the one area where he needs to improve. But I think with the type of game that he plays is adding skating and improving that. And, you know, the Flyers are more than happy to work with that with a prospect. If you add some like a decent, like skating just to be average, like I would say now he's below average, but if it's be average or slightly above that, I think his forward checking ability is insane with considering how slow, like not slow, but how choppy and kind of heavy his feet are. His forward checking game is like, it's honestly impressive how well he's able to forecheck considering that. So I think there's a real possibility of him being a winger that the Flyers take and just like, again, you just leave him in Michigan State for a while, let him put up a bunch of points with that heavy
game. Let him get
a
bigger role, right?
Yeah, because he's playing like third line like this past season. So
and so as you said, right, I kind of like that as well, that he just said, okay, I'm getting X amount of minutes, 12, 15 at max probably minutes a night. I'm going to get in the corners and just fucking hit people. I'm going to throw I'm going to have this 50-second shift I'm about to have. Nobody on the ice is going to wonder who was that guy who was out there, right? Like that's what I like about it. And I think that type of guy, if you give him another added responsibility, you increase his role, especially if you get talented guys around him, which, you know, it kind of seems like the Flyers will have some talented guys on the roster at this point, right? There are some guys in the system, there are guys on the roster who do have some skill. So you get a guy like him and just, you can basically throw him on any line if you really want him to at a certain point, if he's able to develop and keep up with the pace of play, obviously, right, with his skating, as we said. But as long as you can get to the spots, he knows what to do when he gets there. That's so I think, like with Forster, even Noah Cates, very weird skating stride, and it's not been too much of a problem thus far. So yeah, I think I think the Flyers could definitely figure something out with Vansaghi. And I think if he's there, I personally like him as the first second round pick.
Yeah.
Just because I think he may go before they get another chance to take him.
Yeah, and like I'm thinking about a future like third line on a playoff team being Denver, Barkey, Jet Luchenko, and Shane Vansaghi, and just being terrible to play against.
That's horrible. Like, you know, like that's the sort of thing. That's, I think, just to go on a quick tangent, that's what I think people are missing with like the Panthers stuff and even I guess with the Oilers, right? Just like, we need to get some big guys. We need Trent Frederick for 8 years. We need Evander Kane. Like, it's just being difficult to play against. Evan Rodriguez is not big, but he's very difficult to play against.
Eetu Luostarinen, not big.
He's big.
Well,
he's pretty tall.
Is he tall? I thought he was like 6'1".
I think he's 6'4".
I might be my.
Anyways, regardless,
6'3".
Right?
Okay, never mind.
Yeah, he's a big boy. I've never looked at Eetu Luostarinen and said that's not a tall motherfucker. On skates, probably 6'5". Anyways. That's the thing. Like, make 4 lines that are very difficult to play against. If they're not entirely super uber talented, it's still going to be hard to beat you, especially if you have a goalie, which, you know, that, well,
yeah.
But still.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just about being hard to play against, and I think these second round picks could definitely help that. There's a couple more forward names, but they're not super interesting. Is Milton Gastrin and Eric Nilson. Like, it's the 2 Swedish guys that I like.
I also had Cam Schmidt. I had Cameron Schmidt there too.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd be a super like high end bet. It would be weird if Cameron Schmidt like fell beyond the second round, honestly, to me. Like, his shot is crazy. That's just like,
it's the thing, right? You know, you get a guy like Nesbitt goes 12, and then a guy in Schmidt who had 78 and 61 with 40 goals in the dub, right?
But he's 5'7". That's why.
But he's 5'7". That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know, like it's going to be hard for him to stick, especially when compared to the Swedish guys who have had a taste of playing against men. They're all just really well-rounded. Like Gastrin, at least. Nilson, I believe, is pretty similar.
Nilson,
he's a bit more flashy.
Yeah, I would say Nilson's more upsized, is high end, and he needs to put weight on. He's like a stick, basically. But what excites me about Nilson is he'll be playing at Michigan State. Like, he could be the center for Vansaghi, like we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Get like Caden Lindstrom, McKenna on the left, whatever, and then Nilson up there. But his path is a lot more interesting to me, especially with him just coming over so early. And I think to him, with Nilson, it's a big transition game for me. It's he can move the puck up incredibly well up the ice. He's super aware on the back check as well. Just is able to be a distributor and just annoying guy in the neutral zone that always has an active stick. He reminds me a lot of Luchenko that way, of just like being super aware of what's happening and what's going on, and getting in the right position and clogging up lanes perfectly. He was able to play a lot of that, especially more on the junior side, but in the Allsvenskan games he was playing, it's not they weren't super impressive, but it was still like, I think he has a great way to go, and he would probably be like the top option for me out of those Swedish guys, just because I see more of a path and more offense coming from him, and definitely a center.
Yeah, and I feel like, well, the fact that he's a center maybe makes this different, but I feel like at the same time he might be available a little later. Maybe
he could.
It's shaping up. I feel
but also like Cullen Potter was taken. You have Ben
Yeah.
Kindle going at like whatever, he was at 11.
Yeah,
like you never really know. He could be it was like last year with Igor Chernikov. Like, everyone's like, oh, he might go later. Like, that's crazy. And then first pick day 2.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I don't know. It's going to be weird. I don't really know. There's a lot of mix between, is it just a size draft or is it more of a skill draft? It's been pretty split up, right? The Flyers make the move for size, and the Flames make the move, late to try and get the guy that we want.
Flames got like Colin Potter and Cole Reshny.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty good, and it's
small
like
haul, but it's good.
It's small, but you're betting on crazy upside. Should we move on to defensemen, or are there any other forwards that you want to talk about?
Talk about one more forward while I go close the door because the blinds are like going to. There's a thunderstorm. We both live in the same place. There is a thunderstorm.
There's a thunderstorm.
It's getting bad.
I guess we could talk like generally about this group of Swedish players that we've talked a lot about. If you've watched any of our streams, like mock drafts or rankings, but there's a group of players that have played in Sweden or are Swedish that are in this range of picks that we really like. So we've already mentioned Nilson. Milton Gastrin is another one that's been in the first round before, and he's available now after 32 picks. Really well-rounded guy, and that's kind of a similar theme with a lot of the Swedish players. So Eddie Genborg is a winger that plays a hard, physical, aggressive game. Real smart forechecker. Another one is Michael Svrcek, real speedy. He's Czech, but like Michael Svrcek is like really speedy, annoying, tenacious around the net. Not the biggest. I think he's 5'11" or something like that. But there's people that really like him, and just see an area of play that a lot of teams are missing that Svrcek can provide. And a lot of these prospects taken don't have the same upside as Svrcek, but he has much more room or a way to go for players. But those are some forwards.
Thank you. Much appreciated. The hatches are batting down now, so we're all good. I think we have. I'll just go into it now because I think we have the same first defenseman.
That's on the thumbnail.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. Blake Fiddler, very strange. I really don't understand this because right-handed shots, they've been so coveted of recent. His dad played in the league.
Nepotism.
It's so strange.
He has a good, usually good passing game, good awareness, not a bad skater. I've seen end-to-end rushes that he's done. Like 6'4", not a bad skater at all. How is someone like 6'4", 210 going? Like again, this is thinking about like. I was surprised Colin Potter went before him.
Yeah.
Like thinking about that scenario, and like Ben Kindle could go like 30 picks before him. Like it's like the pendulum swinging a little too far. But
anyways. Even Bomidian going before Fiddler. Yeah. I mean, I get it, but it's just not something I thought I would see at like this point in the NHL game where like 6'4", right-handed shot, pedigree, NHL father, scored even a little bit in the WHL. 33 points in 64. It's not nothing. He's got he's smart.
He's young. July birthday.
He's very young. And
July birthday.
Like I said, Vansaghi should be the first one, but that's because I don't see Fiddler making it out of like the first two picks. Like I just don't get it. It just seems like such a layup for these teams who want that right-handed shot defenseman to play on the second pair. Like they took Bristevitz at the end and they were talking on the broadcast. He's a 4. He's a 4. And I was like, I think Fiddler could be better than a 4.
100%. He could be like
I could take him over Mertka and Reed and not be insanely mad about it.
You could make that argument, I think, that like Fiddler is definitely at his peak. I think he's a complementary piece on a top pairing, like easily. Like
at his very peak,
yeah. Like so, and again, you're not talking about a super like high end offensive game. I think Bomidian, like you get the skating, you get like the passing. Cameron Reed is like the skating and the even better skating, even better passing.
Jane Gostisbehere. Yeah,
basically. But yeah, I think with Fiddler it's just like projectability and everything I was able to see. Like it's just a guy that teams want to have so badly, and I was super surprised that he just wasn't taken by like LA or or like Chicago later, like even just adding him to that like towering blue line that they're gonna have. I think he's just someone that I see the future for him so well, of just like another year of the dub, you go play college, you like, what do you play, like Nodak, like go through that system or something, or like go play it for ASU or some like massive pro. Like if he's at Michigan, like that's gonna be crazy. Like I could see him at Michigan too. But like yeah, I just see him excelling where he goes from here, and especially just being how young he is. I don't see why he wasn't a first round eventually.
Yeah.
But
You
now
look at even I look at 28 to 31. The Jets take Bemidjian.
Mhm.
I would have taken Fiddler. The Blackhawks trade in to take Mason West, which I personally have been against, but I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, I guess, as a reach. But again, I would have taken Fiddler. Ravensburgen with the Sharks. You take Fiddler and you have Dickinson Fiddler.
Yeah, that
coming up. Like
so,
and then the Kings take Brusevich, which I think Fiddler's just better.
Yeah. In our mock drafts, we had Ravensburgen, I think, going to the Preds, and I remember being like, okay, he's replacing Askarov, whatever, as your top, whatever, goaltending talent. And and then Preds didn't get a goalie.
No.
But because Blue Jackets got Andrianov. But
the Preds got and then Reed right after.
Why the fuck would the Sharks draft a goalie in the first round? They have Askarov.
This is what I was saying to you before we started. That's what I was saying to Thomas before we started. Like it's shaping up pretty well. Like I don't really know why. Like 4 of the last 5 picks, I was like, Lakovic makes sense. You got it.
That was a faller. I fucking love him.
Even Nestrasil and Lee, I kind of get more than the last 4 out of 5. Cullen Potter at 32 makes sense, but Brustevich, Ravensburgen, West, and Bemidjian, I don't know if those are the best value picks you can get there necessarily, especially when a guy like Fiddler's there. And all I've been told for the last 6 years is that right-handed shot defensemen who are big get to stay in the NHL forever. People still pretend Cody Cece's good at hockey.
I mean, no, but like Cody Cece is good on like a third pairing guy now. Like no expectation.
No, but they keep putting him on second pairings.
I know. But like, I think
I get it.
Anyways,
I understand.
Fiddler is that like a David Savard on Tampa, like that kind of like a Braden Coburn guy.
I like that. Actually, I like the Coburn. I like the Coburn.
Like inoffensive, like, and not. I'm saying inoffensive in a way of like he is not going to do anything that's crazy, but he's also like just so project. Like he's basically a bigger bonk.
Actually, you know what I actually like as a comp to him, just thought of now.
Mm-hmm.
A little Ekholm-y, kinda.
I mean, Ekholm's big.
Ekholm's a bit better offensively.
Skater,
obviously,
better skater, I think.
He is a better skater, yeah.
I
mean, but again, I don't think Ekholm came into the league as like this galloping horse of a skater either with the Preds, right? Like,
yeah.
This is the thing with some
EP said shades of Adam Larson. I see that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's probably
Adam Larson.
Like, I love Matthias Ekholm. I'm not comparing him to Matthias Ekholm. Matthias Ekholm to me is like a 2 on a cup winner.
Yeah.
So that's a bit different. But at the same time, you see Adam Larson. Adam Larson went number 2 overall. Back in the day.
Right.
And I don't even think Adam Larson, like, he was good when he was drafted, but it wasn't like a stud sort of guy. I think I remember
he was seen as like he was like a workhorse guy.
Yeah,
like
he was all over it. Yeah. He was just he wasn't like an offensive dynamo or anything. He was just a solid guy, and I think Fiddler's a lot of the same. And if you're getting that value in the second round, it's kind of hard to pass it up.
Yeah. Another defenseman I have is Cutter Amico.
Mm-hmm.
He's another right-handed shot, big again. I think you're betting on more of a upside with him. I think you are getting a player that, because I think the whole thing about Amico is that he's missed so much time. Because he's played what? I'm trying to look up here. 17 games total.
Yeah.
Split between the U18 team in the program and the USHL juniors team. but he has those things of like he's a good skater and he's physical, and he doesn't put up a whole lot of points. He hasn't scored a goal this season.
Listen,
But
6'5", 225, right hand shot. Again, it's the
yeah,
same conversation we just had.
and he's not like you're not losing speed with
Yeah,
him.
he's not like a bum, or he's not like a
Yeah.
bad hockey player. That's the thing, right? With these guys, you have to have some sort of it. For a time there, it felt like it was just we need a guy who was right hand shot, and now it's starting to sort of go back to he actually needs to be an actual like decent defenseman. We can't just have a guy who's a right-handed shot and put him on defense because he's a right-handed shot. But yeah, I really like the Amico selection from you just because if he's able to stay healthy, again, another guy who you wake up and you're like, is this guy like a top 10 D prospect in the league? Like randomly out of nowhere? Like,
Yeah.
if he goes the NCAA. But again, you got to stay healthy, and that's a big if. And with defensemen, you know, they will target you in the corners. They know who the injury prone guy is. So it'll be interesting to see. I assume he's going to go the NCAA. I don't know if you know
He's at BU. He's committed to BU. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's a good path there. Yeah, that's a good path there. That'd be a fun pairing with those two.
Yeah, good skating. Yeah. I think a big like I'm very, very curious. Like teams weren't scared of McQueen, so I wonder if Amico is like around that same range, but in the second round, like 40th, like is 48. I think 48 is perfectly reasonable for the Flyers to take Hunter Amico.
Yeah.
Say it's like Fiddler at 36 and then Amico, and you just get your two giant dudes that can skate well and provide more defense than offense, like more play killing than play driving type of guys. But I think he's a not safe, but he's a bet. He's a risky bet because of his injuries. But I think that the Flyers would happily take his upside.
Yeah, I think the injuries make him a bet, but the play style and like just the general makeup for a defenseman, I think kind of even that out almost, right? I think if he was a guy who I think he just played the full season, I think he'd probably be in talks to be a first rounder. You know, I think it probably killed him. He's got a B grade on EP, 62 on the big board for them. So that's just inside the second round. If my math hasn't completely deteriorated. So like, I think he's one of those guys, especially because he's just so big and he has skills beyond just being big, that he's probably getting handicapped by his injuries. And if you're a team with 3 second-round picks, it makes sense to kind of take the swing on him, and it doesn't hurt as much if he doesn't pan out. But I still think, you know, he may be available in the third as well. There's a very good chance that that's the case too. So we'll have to see.
Yeah. Do you have a defenseman
so
on your list?
Randomly, I wanted to throw this out there to you. I didn't have too many defensemen like that I had circled after this. I'm gonna give it my best shot. Portland Winterhawks, Max Spsenicka. 6'4", 176. He's 4 inches taller than me, same weight. Not good. Bad. Eat more. Needs to eat more. You can do that though. That's very easy. Trust me. It's very easy to do. Right-handed shot again. Very good off the breakout. Got some good feet on him. Actually plays more physical than you'd think for kind of being a beanpole at the moment, especially in the dub, right? That's a tough league. That's a tough ass league, and he's available if he's able.
He switched over mid-season, right?
Yeah,
I think I remember writing a little bit about him after watching a shift by shift. Just but like he played. He was going in between the top men's division,
and
top
U20.
men's division at Czech, and then U20, and then I think he played some international games in January, and then he switched over to Portland.
Yeah,
played like 20 or so games.
So he came in for that last back half of the season, and he looked really good in the dub. And for a defenseman, that's a tough place to play. It's not really friendly at all. They're really mean out there out west. The Alberta boys don't play. And I think he's a guy who, another long development track sort of guy, just because you really got to build him up physically and really just make everything a bit more consistent. But he's one of those guys, like, you can't teach 6'4" with good hands and the ability to start a breakout and some quick feet. And he's got, again, as I said, he's still aggressive despite not being the biggest guy. So I'd have to imagine you put another 30 pounds on him, which should be like a summer at 6'4". But I don't know how you're 6'4" and 176, but whatever. It should be like a summer. Yeah. So, you know, he gets up to 190, he gets up to 210. Now you're talking about a guy that's like, okay, there's something here that can be really unlocked over time. And again, not a guy who I'd necessarily be chomping at the bit with the first second round pick, especially because Fiddler's there. And again, he's a bit more just overall just locked in. He's more projectable as of right now. But I like the tools. I like guys who can make a breakout pass. I think now I try to view that as more of an indicator of maybe you can find some more offense in your game over time, because you can find those passing lanes and you have the ability to take your time on the puck. And Psenicka, I'm going to go Psenicka. I think the P is silent.
Psenicka.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Psenicka because I think the accent. Anyways,
yeah,
I like him. I think he's got some ability to really pop over time. Yeah. So I think as a second round guy, again, first round guy risky, second round guy, 6'4" defenseman, right hand shot with a great breakout pass, and a guy who has a lot of room to grow, both figuratively and literally. So.
Yeah, like his being all over in like 3 different leagues in your draft year isn't the easiest. And then also at the same time, like I don't see a lot of holes in his game. Like he's physical. Again, like you're saying, like he's for such a light weight on the numbers. I think there were times where he was able to use his body a lot in the WHL. And then also like just the sense and ability. And I think that's coming from playing pro hockey in Europe. And you get that transition game going on so well, where it's not just an individualistic game, that I think that translated to him coming over to Portland really well. I like him just having room and like imagining him being that solid second pairing guy. I'm trying to think of what was EP's comp for him. Michael Kesselring.
Michael Kesselring.
Okay. Yeah. I guess you could start being a comp after playing one season.
Yeah, I remember him. When I started work,
yeah,
he was a career and AHLer. So I don't know if he can start making comps.
What school did he go to again? It wasn't like
Kesselring,
Mercyhurst or something, some shit.
I learned about Michael Kesselring after you did. I will tell you that for free.
But yeah,
I only learned about him when he was a Condor.
Okay, I just see with Svrcek, I see. I think there's a lot of path forward with them, and even just to go back to Fiddler, touching on like his weight too. He's being 17 years old and being 6'4" and like 209. That's fucked.
How do you even do that?
I don't know. Like
I haven't done that in the last 5 years. I've been trying.
Yeah,
I can't grow, but
yeah.
Well, I gotta stop talking about my height so much.
Yeah.
Anyways, moving on to our next forward that we have on the list.
I have Kurban Limatov as a defenseman.
So
Again,
okay.
aggressive, physical, big, but not as big as the guys that we've been talking about. I just really, I like him. I just see he's just like skates better. Also, that I think Fiddler and Psenicka.
Is that the real pronunciation?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay,
but I like him, and I think the Flyers do too, because he was able to play and really shine. I think I think the report out of the Gold Star camp was that he didn't play exceptionally well, but he played well enough to be like, yeah, you're one of the top Russian prospects of this class, but that's not saying a whole lot at the same
It's been a
time.
pretty rough class,
Yeah. So I think I just like him as a option to be a like early Dmitry Orlov, like aggressive guy, and play under like second or third pairing, and just hang out there and like be a good skater, be a distributor of the puck as well. Penalty killer, but not on the power play, probably. Like just like be present. And it's also like I do wonder if I don't know why I feel this way, but I feel like with forwards and goalies in Russia, I think you are more than like willing to wait on because they're positions of such importance. But it's weird when it comes to a defenseman. I was like, you have to wait 3 years for a defenseman to come over. That feels like annoying. Like I don't see why. That's just the thought in my head. It's like I want this guy like in my system now.
Yeah, well, you get it too, right? Because again, it's the MHL playing defense in the MHL.
Yeah.
It's so all over the place. Like I just wish I would have seen these guys in the K, because at least you're playing against like the likes of Jordan Wheel and Cedric Paquette, like the goats
pro
of
level
the
players.
NHL.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot more sense. Actually, he was Dinamo Moskva, so he would have played with Cedric Paquette and Jordan Wheel. I didn't even notice that. So yeah, I mean, it's tough for me to get too enticed by these guys, but again, yeah, skating and physicality as you know,
it's a theme with all these guys.
He's definitely a guy you look at and you can see how he has an potential that can almost be limitless, right? You know, you're taking a risk with a lot of these guys. There are a lot of them, I'd say, in the MHL, particularly the USHL, I just find it to be sloppy, but the MHL, like the good players are like really flashy and they're here today, and the next game you watch them, it's just like, oh god, it's rough. But a guy like Limatov, right? He's playing in a good system there. He's not on some random MHL team, right? Dinamo Moskva's pretty high level stuff for the MHL. So, you know, it's tough to necessarily get a full picture of him, but he plays a lot and he's got the talent to be a successful, like he's a modern NHL defenseman archetype, which I think makes sense. He's got the skating ability to do it, and I think that's almost all you need, as long as you're not a turnover machine or short, obviously. If you're short, you're also fucked.
Yeah. I think a theme with like all the defensemen left are like decent skaters, big, and aggressive in some way, like physical. Like they're not afraid to lay out the body. Like I think if teams are willing to, like, I think if they were going for more of the Cam Reed, Boumedienne, Brustevich, like that mold a little bit later in the first, and then like the second the day two starts, they're like, okay, we can get our physical mean guys out of the way. I think they're going to go very quickly. One defenseman that I actually had on here and doesn't fit that mold is the son of Manon Rheaume, Dakoda Rheaume-Mullen.
I did not put that together.
Yeah, I know. I didn't either until I was looking at oh fuck, what was it? I think it was NHL Network put out something on Instagram and be like family connections in the draft. So it was like LJ Mooney is Logan Cooley's cousin. I don't know if you knew that too.
That doesn't strike me as much. I assume everyone who plays hockey and is American is cousins.
Yeah, Jake Sanderson's. Speaking of Jake Sanderson's cousins in the draft somewhere, I forget his name. But and then I was like, oh, Rheaume, and then Mullen comes from, I guess, his uncle who also played, Manon's brother.
Yeah, no, I
forget. Rheaume, someone.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's connected. He has I think his whole family is very hockey oriented. But played for University of Michigan, just 9 points in 35 games, but a very, very, very good skater. like agile, not like straight ahead, but he'll just be like, I'm not gonna say Lane Hudson-esque, but like work his edges well, and is able to deceive a lot of like forecheckers that way and make breakout passes that way. So I think if you're looking for a defenseman that's not like big, mean, physical to be on your bottom half of the blue line, I think Rheaume-Mullen like is that type of defenseman to take in this next wave of players, and I think he's probably the best bet for that to happen of any defenseman. Like I think after you get all these guys and go through, I think he's going to be left there as potentially like an option for a team that wanted a Boumedienne to take later in the second round, kind of in that mold.
That seems very logical to me. And again, especially you're looking at another guy who played defense as a draft eligible guy at an NCAA program. Like Michigan, you're not going to get to play that much. And when you do play, they're going to tell you, don't do any shit that's crazy. You know, I think he's another guy, like you put him in, you stick him in the OHL, you know, him versus a guy like Cameron Reed. I don't know how Cameron Reed would fare in the NCAA. You know, I like Cameron Reed. I really like his edge work. Same with Rheaume-Mullen. But, you know, it's tough to necessarily stand out the same way in the NCAA as a defenseman unless you are, like you said, a Lane Hudson, right? Yeah. It just doesn't – it's not necessarily the easiest place to create offense as a defenseman. Like, even when you watch it, it just doesn't seem like a place where a ton of defensemen are getting a ton of chances other than, you know, point shots and maybe like
the forwards are just super
activating down the wing. Yeah,
like the forwards are just super aggressive. Like they're Vansaghis. Like they're
that's what I'm saying. Like the guys who are on the third and fourth line, like they're out there for 35, 40 seconds just to make your life hell, right?
Yeah.
Even at the bad programs. So I think, that's a really astute mention. I think he's another guy, right? Like if you see him lead Michigan in points by a defenseman next year, you're like, oh, who's this guy? Wow, how did he fall to the third round? You know, it's another one of those picks where you look at it and you go, I can see how this turns out really well in like a year's time.
Yeah, like Cole Hudson 2 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Like to take another Hudson, where I think he was a second or third round pick.
Third? I think he was the second.
But again, similar profile of like real smart skater, didn't play a whole lot. I think he drafted out of the national program, right? Yeah.
Hudson?
And then he went to BU.
Yeah. Yes.
So I think there's a way, like it's almost similar to a Cullen Potter kind of scenario, but like he went to college early and didn't have like the points to like you sort by points by draft eligible skaters, and he doesn't show up a whole lot. Kind of player. But it's because he went there early. Got like I don't even know where did he go to. What did he do earlier? Because he played for Michigan, but then did he? Yeah, so he was in the U18 team last year.
Yes, I actually, you know what? Now that you say that, I remember that him being on the U18.
Who was he on that U18? Year, So he was with he played with Cole Hudson on the U18 team.
That lines up
with Hensler, Vansaghi, LJ Mooney was on that team. I think that's why James Higgins. It was James Higgins breaking the record. Higgins, Yzerman, Stiga, Brody Zemeyer, Camille Bednarik.
All those last year draftees,
Yeah, 23-24.
Yeah.
U18 team. That was stupid.
Like
he played a depth role on that because Hensler and what did I just say? Like Cole Hudson played above him, obviously.
Yeah.
Like he would have been a depth player on there. Like EJ Emery was on that team too.
He'd be above him at that time too, especially.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So like he was playing a not very big role.
Yeah.
And then he goes to Michigan again, not playing a big role. I think he's just like gonna eventually pop off if he's given the right opportunity. And I think when he turns pro, that'll probably be it. Like given just some more minutes against competition that gives him a little bit more space, and is just a little bit more wary of his skill, then I could see maybe something happening there.
Yeah, I do like these, especially this draft. I will say I do lean. If you were to take American guys, I do lean guys who. So I think Americans are pretty. It was a pretty low amount. It was maybe 3 in the first round this year, or 3 or 4. I think I saw. I think it was 4. But
yeah, Horkov.
You know,
yeah,
Horkov. Hagens, the defense Hensler, and one other guy, Potter.
Yeah,
I think that's all 4. I think I got all 4. So yeah, right. Like again, another guy who, despite his skill, he's just played at really good programs, and he's been behind guys who, even if he is technically on the strength, like pound for pound, as they say, like better than them. EJ Emery is a year older, and as a defenseman on the development program, he's not going to get to play as much as a guy like EJ Emery. That's just how it works, and there's not really much you can do about that. Same thing with Michigan. I think betting on those first-year NCAA guys to take that next jump and to really, especially as of like this draft where we saw how Hagens slipped so much because of his first year in the NCAA. Like, I think that might look stupid, like immediately next year. Like he could have 10 points in 5 games, and we're like, oh, yeah. He was first overall for a reason. So I think that's a very similar thing could happen here. Especially way less notoriety, obviously.
Yeah, I guess Rheaume-Mullen's not committed to much Michigan for next year too. He's not listed on next year's roster. I'm sure it's just EP, not like carrying over. But like, so Cole McKinney's obviously will be there. Henry Muse recently committed there as a defenseman.
I think he stinks.
Really? He was fine.
I was an anti-Henry Muse when he was drafted.
I think he was fine where he was, second round.
I think I wrote an article about how don't take him in the first round, but even in the second round, I was like, he's okay.
There's other guys, but yeah, like Michael Hage will still be there. Michigan's going to be a good team, and I think he won't be playing behind as many people. Like I think this year he played. Who are other defensemen? Ethan Edwards. It was just a bunch of like seniors that are good to be playing above
him. That's the NCAA pecking order, right? That's just how it is.
Yeah. A 23-year-old Devils prospect, Ethan Edwards.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Of course, you're
that's how it'll go.
Yeah.
Do you have anybody else on defense? I do not.
I don't.
Okay.
I had 5: Amico, Psenicka, Limatov, Fiddler, and Rheaume-Mullen.
Okay, I had 3, but 2 of the 3 were on your list too, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I have one more forward.
Okay.
That I particularly want to talk about. William Moore is a guy, but Horkov got picked. It's like the same thing.
Same guy.
They're all the same guy. It's
clones.
But the guy I actually do want to talk about, maybe as a later second rounder as well, was actually Nathan Behm from Kamloops.
Okay.
As a bit of a later guy, 6'2", good scoring talent. He's got some nice hands on him, and I think maybe not necessarily a guy who you'd think would go in the first round, but I thought there was a chance maybe if teams were looking at just like the pure output, 31 goals, 66 points in 59 games in Kamloops. He's got it there. He's not a horrible player by any stretch of the imagination. I think you can see as like a 6'2" winger, you can see sort of a scoring touch there that can maybe blossom over time as he gets a bit older, as he plays against men. I do like his shot and his ability just kind of in traffic to kind of maneuver around and stuff like that. He's got the reach, obviously, as well. And he's able to create his own offense in a phone booth. And I think in the second round, that's kind of a guy that you would like to take maybe another peek at if he's around. He's got that requisite sort of skill. I don't think he's anything unbelievable. I don't think he's insane right now. But I think he has the ability to maybe develop into somebody who every 3 or 4 games you look at and go, this guy's on. Like he is really on fire tonight. So he was really good in his draft year. over a point per game. And I think like later in the season, he just sort of turned it on and looked a lot better. And I think he's a guy that I think he should go in the second round, probably in the first half. And I think he'd be interesting. Again, Flyers necessarily don't need another guy who probably wants to play the wing. Well, he definitely is play the wing. I think he's left or right winger. I don't know. Again, there's a lot of wingers, but at the same time, he is very talented. He's got a bit of work to do in his skating, but we've already been doing that thus far. So fuck it. Let's just go all in on guys who just don't know how to skate that well. He can shoot. He can dangle a little bit, and I think he's got the hands to maybe make some noise at the next level.
Yeah, so. Especially with I thought Riker Lee was going to be in the second round, and his big descriptor for me was eventually he's going to be the most skilled player on the board and you just have to take him. So I thought he was going to drop, and I'm honestly surprised he went in the first. But I think Behm fits that mold too, especially coming from the CHL. He would have gotten noticed, especially in a program like Kamloops, that he would have gotten noticed. So I'm surprised when a lot of the more higher profile CHL players go. It's the same with Luca Romano, Ethan Zada is another one of players that you see the skill very evident, but it's that next level of maybe they didn't have amazing opportunity on their CHL team and they're just waiting for it. I think Behm is probably up at the top of that for me. But yeah, I really like Behm as an option, but again, a winger, and I don't know if the Flyers will be
and
loving to do that.
I mean, you got Martone already, right? So it's tough. Nesbitt, obviously, they're going to try to make him a center.
I think they would go Romano over Behm.
Yeah.
Just because.
Again, you got three. You got three.
Yep.
So it's never, it's never out of the question. But again, one of those guys who I got to watch a lot. And while he wasn't necessarily the biggest play driver on his team, like Emmett Finney, particularly, he led the team in points. He's already drafted by the Red Wings. He was more of the play driver. He was the alpha dog on that team. But Behm, for a draft eligible guy, filled in really, really admirably. And again, like you said, versus a comparison to a guy like Riker Lee, played in the USHL. What would Nathan Behm do in the USHL? We're comparing across leagues and stuff, right? You never know. I think he would have had a shit ton of points in the USHL just because of the way he plays, right? He's good at picking up those broken plays, those broken pucks, pull it out with his reach and kind of get it on net and find those soft areas of the ice. So I think he's not necessarily the guy I take first or second, but if he's hanging around late, you've got that raw scoring ability that's there. Again, not shaping up to be the best skating draft for the Flyers right now. I mean, Martone's he's pretty silky for a guy that tall, especially, but Nesbitt's going to have some problems.
Even if you're talking about a winger that doesn't have the best skating, but his hands are there and his ability to do play at a higher pace, suddenly I might be talking about myself Behm over Zharovsky or something like that. I think Zharovsky is a more attractive, cooler. Oh, this mysterious Russian guy that is playing in the far east. Yeah, but then Nathan Behm is a boring ass player, but then you dive more into him, he's doing this at a level that's much higher than that, and he could be playing college next year. He could be playing college in 2 years. And then suddenly you're talking about a player that's in the AHL at 20, and you're talking about Zharovsky, but I hope we can make it. And he's putting up 0.8 point per games in the KHL. And then you're just wishing that it all translates, but you never know because the KHL is a total mystery.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Zharovsky could have, 5 games in a row where he plays against HC Sochi, going back to our good old days with our boy Matt Bay and Yegor, and he has 10 points in a week, right? But then he plays Moscow,
Actually, good teams.
Minsk, not Minsk, Moscow, Moskva, and then same SKA, and he gets blanked because he's playing against former NHLers or guys who are relatively as skilled as guys in the AHL, NHL, right? Behm, maybe he brings it on a more consistent level just if he goes to the NCAA, if he stays, definitely he would if he stays in the dub, right? If he stays in the dub, you're expecting 40 goals, 45 goals,
points,
90, 100 points, right? So it's an interesting name. Again, don't need another winger, but I think if you were to take one and you wanted to take one that's pretty safe and has an NHL ready body, like about 6'2", 192, he's similar enough to Martone, not in play style, but in the way that, like, if you had to throw him out there, I mean, physically he wouldn't be out of shape, out of sorts, right? It's just like the mental stuff, keeping up with the play, that's going to be a real problem. And the skating, obviously.
Yeah, and like even when you talk about this like projection of like, oh, the Flyers don't need another winger, it's like, well, when he could potentially make the Flyers at 22, how old is Owen Tippett? Like 30, 31? Like you're talking about a team that like is so far from now that you don't know. Like Denver Barkey couldn't make it.
Bobby Brink's almost been traded 15 times.
Like he might get
like
traded.
A sophomore.
And then Alex Bump, we don't know who he is, and he's going to be 26 by the time we're talking about these players that are drafted, even sniffing the NHL. Like maybe not Martone, obviously, because that's a different level of player, but these players that are being taken in the second, third, fourth, like where position is way less evident, and I think like you don't need to pay attention to that too much, specifically like winger and center, that I think you just don't know what a team's going to look like. You're talking about like taking defenseman now, like Cam York is going to be 24. Everyone's going to be heading into unrestricted free agency years the second a Blake Fiddler makes the NHL or whatever. So I don't know. Like we're just talking about Oliver Monk now, and he's 2 years ago. Like
and he might not even make the team this year.
No, it's probably
I don't even think people expect him to make the team this year. Really?
No.
Do we? Like
No.
maybe. But I think if you're looking down the line, you are going to have to like decipher, do we want Jacob Pelletier here for the long term?
Yeah.
Garnet Hathaway's not here forever.
Yeah.
Ryan Poehling, as we just saw, was not here forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there will be spots opening up on the wing. It's not a guarantee that guys like Barkey and Bump make it as full-time NHLers. And if they do, it's not a guarantee that they do it on the Flyers. So it's interesting to look at. And I think he's a name that production-wise, at least, you can probably measure him up against most of the better WHL talent.
I mean, and we just saw like Justin Sordiff get traded for a second-round pick. Like
I don't know what that was about.
Just get prospects, and I'm like,
I guess they're
something.
I guess.
I don't understand. But do you have any other players mentioned, or should we get out of here?
Should we just do the? I'm gonna do the. I think I'm gonna go with like the rest of the guys. I'm just gonna name a few guys I just had laying around.
One.
Here.
Okay, one. If we're
go ahead. Go ahead for your last one. I'm ready to name, empty my chamber and go to bed.
One name, and obviously not a forward and not a defenseman, is Semyon Frolov. I think he'll probably get picked by the Flyers somewhere. Yeah. I think they're gonna get a goalie, and Ravensburg and Andrian have already gone. I think maybe Medvedev in the third round or something.
I just think Medvedev
Ivankovic in the third round.
I think Medvedev is so easy for them. I really do. And Ivankovic, I really like. Every time I've watched Ivankovic play, he's been really, really good. He's small. Like that is, and for a goalie, that's it's tough because I watched the Ravensburgen highlights when he was picked. Jack Ivankovic is not making any of those saves simply because he's just not big enough. Like he's not making the sprawling across the net saves.
And he's not.
And Medvedev to me, it's a Russian guy who plays for the London Knights. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Like if he falls past the first, I don't think they'll take a goalie with the first. I could be proved wrong, but I don't think they'll take.
No, I think with the players still available, I think they'll
take a goalie in the second, though, right? Like that seems fair. I think
I think it's going to be Frolov.
It could be,
but
they could take both. I don't know.
Yeah, just do all three.
Yeah, let's take all of them. This
Anyway.
it's basically like if you're playing darts, you just fistful of 3 of them,
Yeah, might
just
as well.
launch it.
But yeah, who's
Oh yeah,
Ethan Belchis. That's sorry, someone in the Saints, Ethan Belchis. That's Jack Nesbitt's line mate. I guess they could draft him. I don't even know if he's draft eligible.
Big body though. Listen.
Oh yeah, he is.
What was he saying? Is he draft eligible next year, or is he saying
he's draft eligible next year? I guess.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, he's like one of the top guys for next year.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Anyways.
I like that. We're advanced scouting in the BSH comments. I appreciate everybody advanced scouting for us. It makes me.
He said before. I looked at next year's draft, and the defenseman of big stature.
Yeah, he's cooking.
Okay, yeah,
he's cooking.
I
like that.
Okay, I'm not going to compare him to Lindros, but yeah, Belchets, he's big. And it's fun with him being on the same line as and like Green Tree was also there with Nesbitt.
Yeah,
he's also big.
Another big boy. Yeah, another big boy.
Anyways, Chamber.
Ethan Zada, Niagara Ice Dog legend. I worked down the street from the arena. Very, very good little two-way player. Again, similar to Gastrin, I think. Similar, I guess, to Nesbitt, which isn't great, but I think he's a similar sort of guy as a bottom 6, middle 6 center. Could be worth a swing. Yep. Will Moore, Jack Murtaugh. I've been saying Murtaugh. I don't know. And yeah, the very similar guys from the USND.
Would you put Cole McKinney in there, or do you view
Cole McKinney as well as in that whole bunch? I find it hard to differentiate from them, honestly. I do, because it seems like, I don't know, they just occupy the same space in my head.
It's like,
and it's just because the team wasn't very good,
Yeah.
I watched.
There's nothing dynamic
they were
about
getting
them.
the shit kicked out of them by like random college teams at times. I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah.
And like, that doesn't mean as much, right? Once you spread these guys out, they can all have their own development path and stuff. I think McKinney and Moore, I have like, I don't know why, slightly above, but yeah, they're both in the conversation.
I think Murtaugh is more, it's like a little spectrum. And it's like
Murtaugh's more of a winger, right?
Physical versus yeah. He's like physical versus skill, and it's like Murtaugh's here,
yeah,
and then like McKinney is like, I would say there, and then like
Moore's
there. Like it's like a really small like and then if you're just talking about like Horkov, it's like he like in the middle ish, like but like above them, Anyways,
I had Daniil Prokhorov. He's
we haven't named him.
Yeah, Prokhorov. I thought you were going to bring him up eventually, but yeah,
he's just so weird for me. I don't know what to think about him.
Flashy again. It's so hard
super raw. Like
it's super raw, right? Like 20 goals and 7 assists. Like it's just even weird to look at that stat line, right? Like it's just, you look at that and you're like,
you're just bullying people. Like he was just bullying people.
Yeah,
I don't know how that translates.
I don't know. To the again, it's the NHL. I don't know. Again, I think he'll fall. I think he'll be another guy who falls pretty heavily as well. And then I guess the last one, this was more sort of my Nesbitt idea. Hayden Papanekas, big Greek sounding guy, 6'4", 196, just above 6'4", 196, just about 200. I actually saw him first in Spokane earlier in the season. He got traded to Kelowna. Spokane was actually pretty good, so he was down the lineup. Kelowna was garbage, so he was up the lineup. And when I saw him in Kelowna in the second half of the season, for some reason I tracked a lot of Kelowna Rockets games the second half of the season, so I had to look at somebody, and he always seemed, he's noticeable because he's big, but he's noticeable also because like it seemed like he had a bit more there once he left Spokane. And I really would have liked to see him have, that full season in Kelowna where he could have like ripped it up and really had that time to be the play driver that I think he maybe could have been throughout the entire season. So I think he's another guy to look at. Like if he drops to, let's say, 70s, 60s, 70s range, like I think he's a no-brainer just because if you're looking at what you're looking at with Nesbitt, I think you can kind of look at with Papanicus. Papanicus.
I would say Papanicus.
Papanicus? Yeah, sure. I like him a lot. I think he's got a good frame that you can build on, and he's not terrible at anything. There's no super big hole in his game.
Yeah.
And you know that the first half of the season, it's good because the first half of the season shows you like if he has to be, he can turn into a bottom six center, bottom six player, middle six player who plays a bit more defense first and isn't looking to score all the time. But then you see the second half of the season, it's like, okay, there's a little bit more here. Like there's something here. Maybe you can look at him as like more of a workhorse middle six center. EP says more skilled Adam Lowry.
Well, I was just laughing.
I believe they said Nesbitt was Adam Lowry. Did they not? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was laughing. I was like,
yeah,
oh,
that's good. I didn't want to bring that up, but I looked at that while I was preparing for this, and I was like, yeah, that I agree with that, and that's not great. But hey, I think he's another guy that you can get, and I really liked his second half of the season. I think he's got a bit more to give.
Yeah, I mean, the points aren't there yet. Again, like
no,
you're not going to get a lower down the lineup guy or whatever. But yeah, I could see him popping off eventually, popping knocking off.
It's good.
Anyways,
okay,
I think
go ahead. I think I'm done.
I'm done too. I've emptied my chamber as well. Okay. My list is done. I just put 10 names down, but I think we've said a lot.
Jacob Ease Wozniak. We didn't say his name yet.
Yeah, I guess.
There you go to Cole.
Yeah,
you can have that.
Shooter, not a great skater. Very much a flyer.
Sure.
I'm excited. Like overall view is like day 2. I think there's a real possibilities, and but at the same time, I was excited about last year, and then we walked away with like Berglund and Ronan and Matteo Mann and some shit or whatever.
Yeah. But, I just want to ask you, Thomas, just quickly, round 1. How do you like? Just if you had to give a letter grade, what do you think?
B-.
Yeah, I was gonna say B-.
Like Martone's A+, and then
Martone's
everything, and then like
Nesbitt, I give it like a D+.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I like the thought process. I wouldn't even mad at 22. I wouldn't have.
No, I see the thought process. It's the fact that they traded up for him specifically, but also I see why they did because, and Danny Briere said this at the end of his press conference too, of like, you saw the centers going. You saw, like, he saw that, like, after 12, there was a string of centers taken, and then at 22, there were like going to be no centers available. Like, so they said, where can we trade up? And then where do we go from here? Like, and again, and then they get their guy. Sure, if you're talking about straight centerman, I probably would prefer like a Braden Coots there. Cole Reshny is probably a little bit like
again
they wanted size.
I will say size. This. Reshny, very similar to Luchenko in my mind. Like
really
projectability, I see a lot.
Luchenko is a much better skater.
He is a much better
skater. Reshny's like has skating as a problem.
But the impact and where he plays in the lineup, like I see Reshny as a 3C. I see Luchenko as the 3C. Like immediately,
I'd rather have a Luchenko 3C.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I see them both playing that same role, and then eventually, hopefully, growing to the 2C role. You could put, obviously, it's never bad to have two of those guys.
Yeah, but Braden Cooch is the same way, but he's much more like a stable guy. But then I guess Nesbitt is the differentiating factor of like bringing something else physically.
Yeah.
So I'm sure these are conversations that the whole scouting staff had, and they talked themselves into, well, if we're getting a center, are these like, it's why also I talked myself into like liking Brady Martin more than Caleb Donier when we're talking about rankings. Be like, well, if I see their role as the same in the NHL, I'd rather have the guy that does stuff. Yeah. Brady Martin does stuff compared to like Daniel guys lays back and then waits for stuff to happen. So, anyways, we get off track. But like, I could totally see why. Like, like it's not what I would do, but it's also I see the thought process from an NHL front office why they did what they did. It's not like a crazy like I'm baffled. I'm like
Meh.
hate this pick.
I
But
don't
it's
like
also
it,
like,
but I get it.
but it's also like, yeah, like
It's wrong decision, right thought process for me.
looking when you do a look back 5 years from now, you're gonna be like, why the fuck did Jack Nesbitt go 12th overall? Like that's gonna happen. But it's also like right now, it's like the thought process of is like, well, they took an opportunity to go up and get a center, and of course, it's gonna look bad when like Nesbitt is scoring like 30 points a season and is just solid 12, 15 minutes a night guy compared to like Cullen Potter, who's doing stuff, and Cole Reshney again, Braden Coots, whatever, doing more stuff for their teams. But
This is what I ultimately say, and it's not fun. And this is the last thing I'll say on the topic. But it's not fun. It's not exciting. I look at Potter. I see perhaps like Morgan Frost. I look at Nesbitt. I see. First thing I thought of was Tanner Jeannot.
Like actually, that one season, Tanner Jeannot.
Yeah, like the good one, not the one that was traded 500 picks for.
Yeah,
like the
even if Nesbitt at 12 overall becomes Brian Boyle, Matt
yeah,
Cullen.
no, you look at those two
Brian Boyle,
scenarios,
Matt Cullen, those guys.
Potter, it gives you more hope. It's same with Frost, like how it gives you more hope that they can make the jump. But if they don't ultimately make it, I mean, Nesbitt is a guy who will play in the NHL at some point, as long as he can improve his skating like at all. So it's just the trade up I have a problem with. I just don't think it makes much logical sense outside of the fact that you see the centers going. But again, Gastrin's there. There's a couple guys who could play center still around, and like we just talked about Papanikis.
Yeah, like if the Flyers see, think about that. Like if the Flyers see how the centers were being played out. So after Nesbitt, after the 12th overall, it was Carter Bear sometimes plays centers, but he's probably going to be a wing in the NHL. You have Braden Coots. You have Cole Reshney, and then those were the two centers. And then at 22, you have Bill Zanon. You have 24, Will Horkoff. Riker Lee's not a center. Mason West, I guess, and Cullen Potter. If you view those players, so say like Zanon at 22, West and Potter as the same level of player as a Gastrin, Romano, Papanikis, like Matthew Guard, even as like another tall guy, Zada. If you see them at the same tier, then, and we'll find out tomorrow morning, like if they do, or tomorrow afternoon or whatever. But if they see those players in the same tier, then it's like we'll get our skilled center later. We'll do that, but Nesbitt's going to be taken before we can get him next at 22, and we see that as a player that we want when we're good again. We can't trade for that because it's so rare. We can't sign that in free agency because it's going to cost $1 billion. So we want to homegrown this, and like this is our opportunity to get that type of player because we can trade up from this pick and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and whether you like it or not, those players are normally assets. Like we said, Tanner Jeannot did go for a shit ton. These guys do go for a lot. So we'll have to see, right? You take a McKinney and you take a Zada, you take a Gastrin, and then it kind of looks like, okay, yeah.
I want them to take Nilson so bad.
And just, I know you do. I know
just store him over there and just
let him cook in Michigan
State. Yeah. Okay. Thank you everyone for tuning in. We had a good amount of viewers. You sickos being at 1 a.m. in the morning talking about draft stuff.
Eastern.
But yeah. So like and subscribe. We're gonna be doing more watch alongs. We actually did a Jack Nesbitt watch along, which is crazy, just the timing wise.
Yeah.
I hated him, but we'll do more and try to find the positives because he's gonna be a Flyers prospect. We need that propaganda. We're gonna do a Martone watch along soon. We're going to do all the watch alongs of whoever we can find a full games of that are taken in the second and to seventh round. And yeah, go Flyers, BSH forever. like and subscribe, do all those things. I want to see how many likes we have on this right now. I can't see, but just do it right now. Like the button.
Yeah,
Click
get up
that
to
thumbs up.
36. What's the next pick? Is it 36?
Yeah, it's 36. Yeah, get it at 36. There you go. If it's not if it's already at 36, get it to 100. I don't know.
Oh, it's the Get up to what's the 7th round pick? Get to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, go Flyers, BSH forever, all that stuff. See.